This is what happened in Sydney, and this is why Nazis and the alt-right always target the dumbest people. Do you know what you're saying? Do you know what you're saying?
Hail Australia!
Hail Australia!
Hail Australia!
Hail Australia!
Hail Australia!
Hail Australia!
Blood and honour!
And of course, we can't have a Nazi march without the Nazi leadership. Here they are.
My name is Jack Altus. I'm the state leader for White Australia in New South Wales.
They want to steal this country from us. That's what mass immigration is about. Hail White Australia!
My name is...
It was a Nazi march. You participated in a Nazi march. You cheered with Nazis. And then you hailed with Nazis. Great work, new members of the Australian Nazis.
Australia doesn't have an issue with mass migration. Australia does have an issue with education, corporate greed and work ethic, which is what led to the August 31st protests happening. There are many people that are not well versed in economic policy, economic theory, or even understanding how Australia's tax system works, and they need to blame someone for their lack of success. The media piggyback on this because the media is owned by individuals or groups who hoard a lot of wealth and a lot of vacant properties in this country. And they don't want the average Australian blaming them because they want to maintain power. So it's easy to blame migrants because migrants are the ones doing the jobs and doing the work to get the jobs that others aren't willing to do, which in turn is seen as success because they are your GPs, they are your surgeons, they are your academics at university. People aren't willing to do the work. They've got a poor work ethic. So we're going to blame migrants, but migrants are not the ones hoarding thousands, tens of thousands of properties or Airbnbs. It's not a mass migration issue.
Let's just be honest here. You don't hate immigration. You hate brown people. That's why you're going to a Nazi march.
You want to know who complains the most about immigrants? It's the people who have the least to offer themselves. They often have boring jobs, no ambition, and sometimes no kids. And now they're mad because somebody else wants to build a better life? Here's the truth. Most immigrants I meet are actually really impressive. They work hard, they come with a lot of culture, and they actually want to build a family. Meanwhile, Bob from Mississauga is like 42 and still complaining about rent. Because racism is just laziness in disguise. It says, I don't need to grow and learn new shit. I was already born on the right team. Bro, what if your team is not doing well? What if they're losing? What if they're depressed, overweight, and not making babies? And you think the problem is like Ahmed who drives an Uber? Newsflash, a lot of people, they're not being replaced. They're just being out-competed. Immigrants aren't the issue. Weak men without vision are the problem. Because I don't care what your skin color is. If you build, protect your family, and chase something real, I'll roll with you.
Good morning. I know a lot of us are feeling very shocked about what happened all around Australia. It's distressing and it's disgusting. But this morning, I just want to remind you that there's more of us than there are of them. We are not outnumbered and there are more good people with common sense than there are without. They want us to feel small and divided and afraid, but we're not afraid. And you know, the funny thing is because of that, they actually fear us. They fear our unity. They fear our compassion and our refusal to let hate define Australia. The thing is, this is such an important moment. It's the moment where we can stand with Indigenous people, with migrants, with workers, with families, with the LGBTQ plus community, and every single other community out there that makes Australia what it is. And I need you to remember this. Together we are stronger than any horde of hate.
Welcome back to Hosting Stories KE. Now, immigrants' fatigue is getting way out of hand for the people of Australia. And after the August 31st March for Australia protests took place, the Australian people have just discovered that it was not all about marching for Australia. It was other things in other people's interests, for example, the neo-Nazi groups and the white supremacists who are claiming to be taking the white Australian back. They are also calling for the march for Australia to be a march for white Australians, not the entire Australia, but rather white Australians. In this conversation, I've seen multiple people blaming this march. They're saying it was all a target. It was not in the interest of Australians. It was a target for the immigrants. You people are blaming immigrants. But have you asked yourself, are immigrants the source of all the problems that the people of Australia are facing? Or is the Liberal government that should be blamed on these immigration issues? Because others are saying also this protest was just a protest of people practicing publicly on racism. Yeah, they're saying criticizing these immigrants of the issues of Australia has nothing to do with the immigrants rather than the government, because the government should be blamed for the issue of mass immigration in Australia. But again, some Australians are regretting going to this march. You will see. They are regretting, saying that I thought we were going as Australia to march for what's ours, to march for our country. But unfortunately, upon arrival to that march, it turns to be something else. People were just protesting in their own interest. And this group, some of them were being led by the neo-Nazi leaders and the white supremacist leaders, calling for mass deportation of these immigrants and blaming all the issues that Australia is facing on these immigrants. In this video, I want us to look into some of the Australians' reactions of what they were saying about this outcome of the March for Australia 31st August protest, and then at the end I'll be giving my commentaries. In the meantime, subscribe and let's watch this video together.
I hope now, after all the footage that's been released from yesterday, we can all recognise what those March for Australia rallies were really about. People tried to claim that it was about mass immigration. I saw people saying that it wasn't even about immigration in general, it's about mass immigration. And yet from all the different videos that came out of yesterday, from all the different sources, there's like no videos talking about resources, the housing crisis, the cost of living crisis, the employment crisis. You know what there are a lot of videos of? From a lot of different sources? Neo-Nazis leading all of these protests. Neo-Nazis talking about white pride and white Australia, and we need to take this country back for white Australia and the white man. Neo-Nazis literally attacking people at these protests. They were violent protests. There is even footage of neo-Nazis storming an Aboriginal sovereign camp and attacking the elders and women there. There are women and elders in hospital after this event. These rallies were never about immigration. They were always going to be used as an opportunity to push racist and fascist ideologies. And I think it's important that we recognize that, and we recognize these rallies for what they were, because they weren't just an average Australian going out to protest for the betterment of the country or our community. These protests didn't come from a place of care or concern for our country. They came from a place of white supremacy. And in a multicultural country like Australia, there is simply no room for racism. Australia has never been and will never be a white country. Like, don't forget that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. This country has black roots. And in today's age, we're lucky enough to have so many diverse cultures that live here. Australia is so much of a multicultural melting pot that it simply will never be a white country.
I made a huge mistake. I made a huge mistake in marching yesterday. I now realise that the people that I was marching with did not have the same outlook as me, did not have the same belief system as me. And for that, for all of the Indigenous community, I apologise. When I went to the parade yesterday, the whole time I was preaching that we need to be spending money on our Central Australian Indigenous communities, pumping money into the communities to raise them above the poverty line, to rid them of disease that is running rampant through the communities, to help people with addiction, to help people have a better life than what they currently have. After seeing the neo-Nazis yesterday and what they did at Camp Sovereignty, I do not stand for that, and they are not my people. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that the Indigenous people were going to be hurt for no reason. They were minding their own business. They weren't part of any marches. They weren't a part of any political agenda. They were there at Camp Sovereignty, sitting and minding their own business when these neo-Nazis decided to attack them. I want to make this clear. I do not condone their actions, nor do I even have any sort of understanding on why they would do that. It was absolutely fucking appalling to see. And for any single person that is on my followers list that may be a part of that, or that thinks that I stand for that, unfollow me now. If you think that those actions that those white people did to the Indigenous community yesterday is okay, and attack them just off the basis of their colour of their skin, their ideology on life and their culture, you should be fucking ashamed of yourself. And it's genuinely disheartening and it's genuinely hurtful to think that there really is people out there in 2025 that would hurt people just basing off the colour of their skin and their culture. I'm a person that hunts on this land and I'm a person that fishes on this land. I embody the spirit that the Indigenous community live for. I want a new Australia in the aspect that my children will one day be able to hunt this land and still be able to fish this land. Not at one point yesterday on that protest was I standing hand in hand with a person that wanted hatred towards any other culture. I'm sorry that I was misinformed and I was blinded by the ideology that people would have the same outlook as me. To the Indigenous community again, I am so deeply sorry. So deeply sorry for what happened to your people. You deserve retribution. You deserve your get back. You deserve justice for what happened to your people, and once again, I apologise so deeply. Any Indigenous man, woman or child that ever is being picked on just or hurt or demonised just off the basis of the colour of their skin, I am a safe person to come to and I will fight for your right. Any Indigenous man or woman that is willing to have me next to them for when you fight for your rights in a march or in a protest, anyone that is willing to have me next to them, I will proudly stand there next to you. Once again, I apologise so deeply to the Indigenous community what happened to you yesterday. I love yous all. I appreciate yous all. And once again, I am genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, so sorry that I marched yesterday under the thought that others stood for what I stood for as well.
We don't have an immigration problem in Australia. We have an issue with bigotry and racism and a lack of education. Before you put the blame on the wrong people, be immigrants, make sure you actually understand what's behind things like the housing crisis, and that is decades of government inaction, predominantly from the Liberals. It's private land banking and private greed and corporate greed. They're the things that are causing the housing issue. So put your blame on things like Airbnb and people like one of the organisers of the march who has 35,000 plots of land or houses that are land banked at the moment that are completely empty. If you're worried about the economy, understand what makes the economy tick. And in doing so, you'll see that immigrant labour and what immigrants bring to our economy is actually good for us. It's good for our economy, not bad. So before you put the blame on innocent people just trying to make themselves have a better life and also adding to our quality of life, educate yourself, because all you're seeming to be is bigoted and racist, and it's not a good look.
Also, it's not a government conspiracy. The whole thing of going that, you're going to ask the Governor General to get rid of Albanese, it's never going to happen. It's a pipe dream because you don't understand how government systems work. You also don't understand how our voting system works. So many of you are under the weird train of thought that the election was rigged. All you're doing is coming across as conspiracy theorist lunatics.
I don't really get political on this shit, but you lot are gonna fucking piss me off. I used to be proud of calling myself an Aussie. Like when I lived in the States, bro, being Australian was this huge thing. Like everyone loves Aussies. Rah, rah, rah. What the fuck is going on? Like seriously, bro. Since when was being a neo-Nazi like okay? I've been seeing interviews of people going, oh yeah, like if he's defending the country, talking about what's his name, Thomas Sewell. By the way, not from Australia. Let's everyone understand that he's not even from Australia. And but apparently, it's all right because he's defending the country. So like, as long as he's defending the country, then yeah, go for it. Be a neo-Nazi. Are you lot fucking stupid? Like actually, I don't understand. Like, I get that youth crime is a big thing. I get that there's some problems with control over immigration. I understand that. But to normalize hating a group of people so much that it's like you're acting like you want to bring the White Australia policy back. Like, yous are disgusting. Oh yeah, mate, true blue Aussie, mate, they're not coming to my country. Fuck up, bro. True blue Aussie, I actually don't want to hear it unless you're First Nations, bro. I can't lie. My dad's an immigrant. He come here from South America. He's got an Aussie accent. He's been here for, 40 years. Like, does that change anything about me? Does that change anything about my dad or what, the way that he's helped out or the way that he's contributed to society or what? Like, for real, a lot of yous need to take a fun look in the mirror because, like, I'm ashamed to call myself an Australian after all of this shit starts going down. Like, you lot are disgusting. For real. And Bob Cutter too.
Australian people shouldn't be pinning all their problems to this issue of mass immigration into Australia. I also think that they should blame their Liberal government because the government is the one to counter-check on what's the problem and the matters affecting the people of Australia. They should also emphasize on when they are marching because they're planning another march coming this 13th of September, I believe. They are planning on another march. And if they are going to participate in such masses or marches in future, they should emphasize on their matters affecting Australia, not to just follow a leader who is a neo-Nazi leader that says we are going to have a protest and we will be protesting on this and this and this. For example, the housing crisis, the mass migration issues, and then this and that. But in reality, in the field, when you go onto that march, you realize that this neo-Nazi leader are just using the Australian issues to express their own interest, to tell the people that you are participating in a neo-Nazi march, you are participating in a racial march, you are participating in an anti-immigrant march. So when the people of Australia discover this, do you think that they will go on to another march which will be announced with these people? No. So the people of Australia should rather consider marching against the government and reminding the government that we are having an housing crisis that is so new. We are having the cost high of living that's so new. These immigrants are taking all our jobs that's so new. We need you to control the mass immigration in our country and we will blame it on you. If these people come, you should regulate the number of immigrants that are coming into Australia rather than saying we don't want immigrants. We don't want any Australian in our country who is not white Australian. No, that's not the factor because Australia is a multicultural country. Therefore, it have got also some black, some Latin Australians, some indigenous Australians. Yeah, Australia is a multicultural country, so it got all the sorts of human beings on Australia who are legally Australians. So when these neo-Nazi people tell us that we want to march for white Australia, it means that the interest, it's just based on the white Australians, isn't based on the Australia as a country. And this is wrong. This is totally wrong. If you really want to fight for Australia, your motherland, then you should come as one and then decide we are going to march for these issues affecting us, Australia, not us, white Australia. Because if you do that, then people will start saying you are marching against immigrants, you are marching against race, you don't want these people, brown people, people of color onto your country, and that will be totally wrong. But that's just my thought. I want you to tell me what you think in the comment section, guys. Let's have a very pretty discussion. The discussion is open. You've seen what they've said. You can also tell us what you think. What was your encounter during that protest that happened in August 31st? What did you discover? Did you regret going to that march? Did you deliver the message that you are targeting? If you are in a certain town, tell us, how was the protest in that town peaceful? Did the people there achieve what they were targeting, or did that protest turn out to be another thing that the people of Australia didn't expect would happen? Did the neo-Nazi group cause chaos in certain cities or certain towns? Tell us in the comment section. Let's have an open discussion then. I'll see you in the next video. Remember to subscribe, and adios.